Hey everyone, it's Kat with Kat Warren Photo. Thanks for tuning in. So today's feature is Bombay Beach and a model named Jasmine. I actually did this shoot back in California several years ago. If you guys have any opportunity to go to Bombay Beach, I highly recommend it. It's an abandoned city in Southern California. Just really, really cool photo opportunities for photographers. So definitely check it out. So right now, I've already ranked a couple of photos that I want to edit, and that one's a pretty good one. There are four that I had a hard time choosing, but I think I narrowed it down to two. So we're going to edit two tonight. So let's get started with this one first. And then I think the other one that I want to edit is, let's see. Mind you, right now these are straight from the camera. Yes, this is going to be the second one that I like to edit. It is a little bit darker, but we'll go ahead and make those corrections. So let's go to the first one. The very first thing that I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to do the adaptive portrait, polished portrait. It's a little bit easier. And yes, it's, bear with me, I'm working with a very old Apple computer. So it's going to take a little bit. Okay. I like those results. We'll keep it as is. Now we're going to move into the basics panel. And again, work our way from the exposure down to the saturation and then down to the other sections. I like the exposure. I think it's pretty good as it is, so we're going to leave that alone. Now we're going to go ahead and do some layering masks here. Let's do a radial brush at this point because I do want to brighten her up. As you can see, we have three bright locations other than her, so we're going to counterbalance that. So we're going to balance her out by brightening her up and then darkening the surrounding areas. Now, again, another tip that I do like to do, I always look at the navigator thumbnail just to see if I can see a halo of brightness. If you can see a halo, then you've brightened up your subject a little too much. I do want to try and keep this as natural as possible, so I'm really, really cognizant of that. All right, we're going to do another radial gradient, but this time we're going to darken the surrounding areas, specifically this chair here. It is a little bit brighter than I want. Now, if you guys are curious to know how I shot this, I'm going to refer you guys to an older video that I did. It actually shows you the setup, but we're basically working with a 3-light setup here. We have a snoot, we have a flash, and we also have an umbrella to the immediate right of her. Before, after. Again, very, very minor, subtle changes, but those subtle changes do make a huge difference. All right, this particular area next to her feet is pretty bright too because of that sunlight that's coming in through that left window. We're going to darken that by darkening some exposure, but then specifically the highlights. Okay, let's try and brighten her up a little bit more. Now, if you don't want to mess around with the exposure slide too much because of drastic changes. Definitely recommend the amount slide bar for a little bit, like it gives you more allowance for the tweaking. Now, something that I do like doing in my photography, my latest photography, is I don't really like too much contrast anymore. So back when I was younger, when I was first getting into photography, I loved higher contrast, but it just doesn't look natural to me at this point. So I try to limit the contrast as much as possible. I do like that. I think we're going to go with a contrast of -15 though. I don't want too much detail to be lost, so I think -15 is a pretty good middle point. I'm going to reduce some highlights here. I'm going to brighten up a little bit of those shadows to the right of her. And then to counterbalance the loss of contrast, I also like to just pop a little bit of black into the edit. So I think that's what I'm going to do here. Now for the texture, there's a lot going on here. So I'm not really too sure at this point how to go about this. So I'm going to slide the bar to the left and to the right just to see what style I like the best. And for dehaze, I think I like that a little bit. That's too much. I think we're actually going to dehaze. A lot of times in previous work, I actually like the haze a little bit, but I think in this particular circumstance, it looks better if you dehaze it just a little bit. And we'll pop some clarity in there. Now, for the vibrance, there's a lot going on. It's very, very colorful. I actually think that her skin is a little bit orange. So I'm going to go, I don't think that there's any need to change the vibrance here. So later on, I'm going to go into the color mixer and desaturate the orange. And I'm lightening up the back of the seat again. I don't think that having it as dark as I had it looked natural, so I did pop a little bit of brightness into it, but not as much as the original, as you can see. Okay, so for the color mixer, like I said before, the oranges will go ahead and desaturate a little bit. We're not going to make her look washed out or look like a vampire, but I do want to produce some of that bronze glow to her. I think that's good. I don't think that there's any need to change any other colors, including the yellow, so I'm just going to leave it as is. And then for the color grading, don't think that I'm going to do any type of color mixing, but I will make some adjustments to the tone curve, specifically with the green and with the blue. Now for the green, I'm looking for a little bit more neutralized color palette here. Again, as you can see, it was very, very warm. There's a lot of red, there's a lot of orange. So I do kind of want to neutralize that by popping in some blue and green, but not too much of it. I think that's pretty good. I think the green and the blue help to neutralize the oranges. So now we're going to move to the details. There's no need to denoise, so we're going to leave that alone. Lens correction, I always do the lens correction. And for this photo, I'm going to leave the grain as is. I'm not going to pop any grain into it. If you guys have watched a lot of my other videos, I love grain, but I'm not going to I'm not going to include that. Gotta love the AI generative feedback here. We're gonna remove that little white speck on that chair just because to me, it looks distracting. Have any of you guys been to Bombay Beach in Southern California? What did you guys think of it? Drop me comments down below. I do like to read your thoughts on that. Bombay Beach, this was my first and my last time, unfortunately, going to Bombay. I wish I had more time to make other trips, but yeah, it's about like a 2-hour drive from San Diego, and we had a great time road tripping over there. But just for it to be an abandoned building, there's just so many things to photograph. It's crazy. Okay, so we're gonna go to the second photo now. First thing that I'm gonna do is, of course, I'm actually gonna do the previous command. So pretty much all of the settings that I had from the previous photo, they're gonna be transferred over here. The exposure obviously didn't really change, so we'll have to add that in manually. I'm also going to remove a lot of the layer mask from the previous photo, so that's what I'm doing right now. All right, so let's just change up the exposure a little bit. Let's see. Now you can see her face very clearly now, but I do like the fact that the background is dimly lit. So we'll keep the exposure, at least the background, the surroundings dark, and then we'll add another radial gradient to her directly and brighten her up. Now notice that she's leaning at an angle, so I'm going to narrow the radial gradient, and then I'm going to rotate it to match her angle here. So we're going to lighten her up a little bit. think that's pretty good. That looks much better. Okay, before and after. Now, since this is a closer photograph of her, I am going to go in there on her face and sharpen and pop in some clarity to her eyes and brighten up her eyes a little bit too. That way, that's the first thing that you see when you see this photo. And again, very, very minor changes here. I'm going to go into the color mixer now and desaturate further the orange. Granted, it was at -15 from the previous photo, but this one, it's a lot more surface area for that orange, so we're going to desaturate it even further. Okay, we're making progress. Now I'm going to zoom into her face, and that's where you're going to see me do some of that detailed work on her. And again, this is not even very detailed. You know, like if this was for a print, obviously I would do other things. Like I'd clean up her stray hairs around her hairline. I do several other things, but for the purpose of this video, I mean, I think, again, for me, natural is better. I don't really like making too many modifications to photos as is. So yeah, we're just going to sharpen and pop some clarity into her eyes and her eyebrows. Okay, so as you can see, that looks pretty good. Another few things that we're going to do for this one is the vignetting. I think this is a really, really good opportunity, a really good photograph to do some vignetting. But again, I do want to make it look natural. I don't want it to look deliberate. Like, we obviously put some vignetting here. I want it to be subtle, but still dramatic. Before and after. Yeah, and that's we're just about done. The only other thing that I can think of is doing that linear gradient for the highlights right below her feet. And there you go. All right, before and after. So here they are. What do you guys think? Like, comment, subscribe to my channel if you like what you see, and thanks so much, guys. Take care.